Welcome to the first of a three-part Adobe RoboHelp Essentials series. Here we're going to learn how to unleash the power of conditional output in Adobe RoboHelp. I'm Matt Sullivan. I'm the owner of Comm Tools, and I'm an Adobe certified expert, instructor, and professional. Those are all about the same thing. In all of the technical communication suite applications, RoboHelp is one of those TCS applications, as well as a lot of Creative Cloud applications, things like Photoshop, Illustrator, InDesign, Acrobat, and a bunch of others on top of that. I'm also fortunate enough to have been an Adobe Max teaching assistant for the last couple of years. Since you're here taking advantage of this free training, I'm going to assume that you're interested in other free training events and resources from Adobe. The first of those is Data World. That's a conference that's been going on since about 2016. We talk about data, structure, XML, Adobe Experience Manager, RoboHelp, and Adobe FrameMaker. I feel grateful that Adobe has asked me to be one of the co-master of ceremonies for a lot of these conferences, I think about the last 5, along with Stefan Gentz, who is the worldwide evangelist for the TCS applications. Adobe also has a robust user-to-user community system, community.adobe.com. On that page, if you find the technical communication and e-learning area right here, that will bring up a list of those TCS applications, letting you click directly to RoboHelp or whatever application that you need. I'm a community expert on that system. I've been involved since 2005, and I've got a couple of posts, solutions, etc. that I've posted. One of the best parts about this system is that you can get fairly immediate answers from people around the world. People in every time zone check this community system. So no matter what time of day or night, you're likely to get a timely response from any of a number of experts like myself and other great people that are answering questions. If you haven't seen the Adobe TCS YouTube page, you should check it out. Along with webinar and event recordings, you also have a series of new features for the TCS applications. Here's a screenshot of all the new feature releases going back from 2022 release all the way back to the 2015 releases. I've produced a number of these videos, so if you get in there, don't be surprised if you hear a voice that sounds a lot like mine. Adobe's also got introductory courses for both RoboHelp and FrameMaker. If you're interested in those, here's the link right here. And you can always do an internet search for online training for Adobe technical communication products. Adobe had me design those free courses so that they're about 1.5 hours to 2 hours to get through the material. Once you get beyond that introductory training, if you're interested in deeper training in either RoboHelp or FrameMaker, at techcommtools.com, you'll find links to workbooks, reference books, online classes, courses, and even consulting. In fact, if you go over to the techcommtools.com page, this is a mobile-friendly page that lets you see all the stuff that you need to get to right away. Along with this session on condition tags, I'll also be doing a follow-on session that shows not only how condition tags can provide better independent outputs, but how these tags can create a single output that allows users to dynamically select their contextual environment from choices based upon the condition tags. There's also going to be a third session that explains merged help, or the ability to produce a single output with or without conditions and filters from a connected set of independent RoboHelp projects. Merged Help lets you and your team manage truly large sets of content from multiple independent projects, and that can help you simplify content access for your authors without use of a dedicated content management system. So why do we care about condition tags at all? Well, the problem that we need to solve is that multiple audiences create challenges for technical content, and specifically challenges for technical content creators. It could be different geographic areas, localization, internal versus external content consumers, different levels of user experience, and any number of other things. Traditionally, you'd need to create multiple copies of that same content for language, for version, for option, and then modify each of those as each project changes. A major problem comes in when you need to modify the common content. If you have, for instance, 12 different projects all discussing the same product with different variants, then each common content issue creates 12 edits for you to correct and then publish. It's not realistic to think about keeping those multiple copies in sync, along with the rising cost of things like translation and localization, and straight up publishing for all of these different versions in different locations. Let's take a deeper look at some of the things that might go wrong. Now here's one that's a bit of an urban myth. In fact, it was actually taught to me in class while I attended college. Turns out not to be true. If you have any modest understanding of the Spanish language, you probably know that the Chevy Nova can be broken up into Chevy Nova or Chevy doesn't go. That's kind of an unfortunate name for an automobile, and as a result, legend had it that the Chevy Nova didn't sell particularly well in Mexico. Well, if you dig a little deeper, or if you know Spanish a little bit better, it turns out that the literal translation from English to Spanish for Nova or exploding star is Nova. So it's not entirely true that the Chevy Nova had a problem with sales because of the name, but it is true that that would be a hurdle that you as a technical communicator would have to get past. You'd have to know the difference between Nova and Nova and realize that there's not a problem there. Other problems come up when you talk about units. In this example, this recipe mixes 4 different measurement systems. We've got metric using grams for flour and sugar, imperial for just about everything else. Then we've got a measuring unit of eggs without regard to the egg size, and that could vary substantially even with just 2 eggs used. And then there's also butter given in sticks, although they also give the imperial measure of 1/2 of a cup in the recipe. Now the downside to mixing these units in this recipe is pretty low, and they're easily convertible and you can kind of do this on the fly and not worry about it too much. But that's not always the case. As we all know, often accuracy is significantly more important than efficiency. Here's a chart from a set of aerodynamic lift educational material from NASA. It uses imperial units for altitude and for the speed of sound. As you can see, it's not quite as easy to translate this information into metric units on the fly. Charts like this can easily justify conditional output all by themselves. In fact, I worked with an aerospace manufacturer that had a short emergency operations manual whose primary difference was the units used for a UK or metric flight crew and a US or imperial units crew. Beyond units, complex options on a given product are another reason for separation. The more complex your user's choices, the more your users will appreciate content that removes unneeded content from that experience. Maintenance and repair manuals are notorious for this. Rather than providing content for a specific product configuration, everything gets dumped into a single master document, leaving the user to sift through irrelevant information to find exactly what they need. Getting approval for software upgrades in large organizations and in heavily regulated industries can be a challenge. Often, the upgrades will fall far behind current versions. As a result, companies like Adobe have to maintain versions and documentation a number of versions back in order to support their existing customers. Here's an example of a small interface change in RoboHelp that relates to today's topic. Prior to the release of RoboHelp's modern interface in 2019, conditions were managed in something called the Conditional Build Tags panel. Now, I'm glad that they changed the verbiage to simply condition tags, but in fact, this small change is so deeply ingrained with me that I'm certain that I'll incorrectly use the phrase build tag or something similar in this session if I haven't done that already. As you can see in this screen capture, in the 2019 release, which included both the older interface, the 2019 Classic interface, and the newer 2019 Modern interface, the default build tags supplied with RoboHelp, online and print, are named the same, but the name of the panel that contains these tags has been changed from conditional build tags to condition tags. And regardless of location, language, software version, or option, you're likely to have many different types of users. So here's content from Adobe's own Adobe Experience Manager, or AEM documentation, showing the various user roles that are available to the users of the AEM product. So now you can see where the separation of content can be a huge help to the end user. It prevents them from having to ingest and understand information that does not relate to their current contextual position. But all of those different publishing intents mean a maddening number of projects and the near impossible task of maintaining that common content across those multiple, nearly identical projects. And so, managing exponential projects is not the answer. And we look to the RoboHelp condition tag for help. As I showed earlier, RoboHelp provides the ability to tag content with conditions. Both default conditions, like online and print publishing intents, but also custom groups and custom conditions to fit your exact needs. Here's an example I'll dive into deeper in this session. It's basically a sanitized version of an online app that I built for my soccer referee association. Procedures differ from game to game based upon both age and gaming circuit. So this app gives the referee the ability to see contextual rules for any of the supported gaming circuits without having to look past information from other circuits that might be confusing or worse, contradictory. At the end of the demo, you'll be able to pull up each of these 3 different instances of the published content to see the result for yourself. In this way, RoboHelp provides you, the author, with a single source of authority for content. You manage the variants inside your system by tagging and conditionalizing the content while more easily editing the common content within your single project. As an example of common content, the first bullet point here states that the referee needs to be on the pitch no later than 30 minutes before the match. If it turns out that more time is needed across all circuits and ages, the 30-minute advice only needs to be changed one time in this one project. If there were different help systems for each of the different circuits, the time needed to make that change would be at best 3x, but probably a lot more, since each of the projects would need to be opened up, changed, published, saved, and then double-checked for accuracy. As options, or in this case circuits, expand, requiring more and more projects, the problem only increases exponentially. And in this example, maintaining 3 different projects for the circuits would also triple any time and cost associated with localization efforts. And so now that you know why we're doing all this, it's time to get in and see exactly how it all comes together. I'm going to show how to create condition tags, how to apply those condition tags to topic content, things like text and images, and in this case, a table, how to apply condition tags to entire topics, and then how to create the condition tag expressions that we need and create conditional output based upon those expressions to a specific location for a specific purpose and audience. In this session, we're going to show you how to work with conditional tags. And you can see in this example, I've got conditional tags set up for condition A and B. And then in my title, I've got circuits for A, B, and C. So I'm missing one of my tags. I just deleted one of those so that I could re-add it and then build up this example. So we're going to look at creating an extra condition tag. Those are things that you might know as conditional build tags if you are a longer-term user of RoboHelp. And then once we create that extra tag, we're going to learn how to apply it to pieces of content, whether it is a character or a phrase, whether it's an entire item, whether it is something like a table here. You can see circuit C has no tag applied to it, so it's got no color. We're also going to take a look at tables of contents and see how they might differ for your individual projects. You can see here we've got circuit A, I've got a TOC that has circuit B, and then TOC that includes circuit C, important information. Once we figure that all out, we're going to go over to the output. And in the output, we're going to be looking at our output presets, and we're going to have individual outputs for each of our conditions. Keep in mind, in another session that we'll be doing after this, or that follows along with this, we're going to look at how to create one output that has all three pieces of content combined and allows your end user to switch between. But for right now, we've got preset A that's going to be in one location. And then somebody would go to a different site, a different URL to get to preset B. And then obviously we're going to need a preset C if we're going to use that third condition. We'll also be looking at the differences between various templates that you might use and how you could use the separation of those templates as a benefit, or how that separation of templates might be kind of a drawback and force you to dot your I's and cross your T's a little bit more closely. Let's go back into the authoring. Within the authoring information, looking at my circuit rules, I'm going to go all the way to the top and recognize that I've got this heading, which is circuit A, B, and C. So having already applied A and B conditions to the appropriate information, I'd like to apply that third condition, condition C. So I will go over to my condition tags. I will click on the plus up here, and I will select the group that I want it in. I've already got a group set up for league. That's pretty easy to do as well. I'm going to type in my label. The space that I typed in gets automatically replaced with an underbar. That's just for technical reasons. And we're going to go ahead and also choose a background color, something that's fairly transparent, just so it's easier on the eyes. These indicators don't show in the published information, so you're free to choose whatever color you want. You might as well make it a little bit different. All right, so here's condition C. I'm going to go through and put the condition C in two different ways. I'm going to highlight my C. You can see I can just drag this over the top, and it's been applied. I can also go to an area in here. Let's just say that we start here. I've got one or more of these bullets that are going to have the condition C applied to them. And I'm going to go ahead and take these bullets right here. What is it? Four or so bullets. And I can either drag condition C on top of that larger portion, or I can do a right click. I can choose to apply condition tags. And this allows me to apply condition C easily. This also allows me to apply multiple conditions if I like, which I don't like right now. And you're free to do that. In this example, I've chosen to only apply one condition per piece of content, and that's going to make the logic a little bit more straightforward for this example. But in your own information, your own content, you are free to apply multiple tags to each piece of content and then be able to use Boolean logic to say and, or, include, exclude, based upon the various conditions that you need for your audience. I'm going to hit apply, and you can see when I deselect, now those bullets are all set with the yellow condition right there. Moving farther down, you can see that the tables here, this has the A, we've got the B. Down in here, we've got circuit C. I'm going to highlight all of circuit C through to the end of the table here, and then I'm going to simply drag on top of there. And now I've got that entire table set as conditional text, including its title. Now this is a good place to see where we're at right now. Looking at my output, I've got a preset A and a preset B. I'm going to go to the preset A. And I'm going to generate that preset. and then I'm going to view it. So first off, we can see that in the heading it says circuit AC. So the C hasn't been made conditional yet, or it hasn't been excluded from the output. We're going to see how to do that in just a second, but we're going to confirm with the match day that those areas talking about the 8 and 10-year-olds, that's not been excluded. Also going down to match fees. Circuit A also includes, this section also includes information on circuit C, which is not exactly what we're looking for. Let's confirm with preset B that that's also the case. And so viewing the rules B output, we've got the BC in the heading. Match day includes the information on the 8 to 10-year-olds. Match fees includes both B and C information. To fix that, we're going to go back over to RoboHelp. Within our output, we're going to look at the conditional expressions. Looking at condition A, or expression A, you can see that right now, the expression A excludes the condition B content. Now you want to be careful here. Don't read this too literally. What we're doing is just kind of like look at the first part and the second part, or the last part here. When we're working with condition A, we want to exclude condition B, but we also want to exclude condition C. So I'm going to drag that over, and now condition A is excluding C and excluding B. We'll go ahead and save that. Let's also look at expression B. Expression B needs to exclude A and exclude C. Choosing to save that, going back over to the output presets. I'm going to go to preset A. And view that. Now preset A excludes the C in the heading. The match day no longer has information about 8 to 10-year-olds. The match fees no longer include information on circuit C. Checking preset B. We generate the preset. We view it. Circuit B is all on its own at the top here. My match day information does not include the information on the 8 to 10-year-olds. My match fees does not include information on the 8 to 10-year-olds or that lower level information. Now notice each time that I generate and then view, it's showing up in a different tab. So if you wanted to know this ref B here, if I go to what's probably this one right here, you can see that this is the older version right here. So this can get very confusing, and I would recommend that you remove or you close all of these things as you get too many across, you just keep them closed. So I'm going to go ahead and just close that window. And back in RoboHelp, we want to look at how to work with the conditional expressions. So within the conditional expressions, I've got an expression for B and for A. I do need a third, so I'm going to select that. Type in my label. And as I did before, I'm going to use a label that is incredibly descriptive for right now. You don't need to have the word expression in your conditional expression, but notice how all of these tabs start to go across the top. If your names start to roll on top of each other, if they're named the same or similarly, it may be difficult to understand the difference between a preset, an expression, a template, a condition tag, or a piece of content. So be careful and try and give yourself a head start or a little bit of a leg up on organizing this information by giving yourself solid labels. I'm going to hit done. I've now got expression C. Now notice that over here as well, within my condition expressions column right here, expression B appears to be highlighted. But this is not condition B or expression B that I'm looking at. The underline on the tab here lets me know that this is expression C. So it's not a bad habit to just double click on this thing to bring this in line with this, understanding that expression C is now visible. It just has no definition. Now this is easy enough because we just need to take condition A, and when we're working with C, should be pointing over here, when we're working with C, I want to exclude A and I want to exclude B. That's great. That's all we need right there. To output this information, what we need is an output preset. So I come over here, and you'll notice that I've pulled out the different default outputs that come with a RoboHelp project just to make it easier to navigate. If you don't plan on using a given output, you might as well delete it because it's really easy to replace it. In this case, I'm going to go to create an HTML5, responsive HTML5 output. That's this logo right here. I'm going to go to the plus, choose from the types of outputs that I can create, find responsive HTML5, that same logo, give it a logical name, and hit done. So just like before, preset B is still highlighted. It's really preset C that I'm looking for. So I'm going to click on that, and that gets it more in line. I know that C is C, and that's this content right here. In my general properties, I'm going to match what I had in my other outputs. So if I go to preset B, I'll copy this, put this right here, change it to C. And I also want to put in the favicon that I've got. So if I go back to B, I'll grab the location of this file right here. So I'll select all and copy, go back over to C, and then move to the content options. In the content options, I need to choose a table of contents. Now I went ahead of time and created a TOC for A and B and C. So I'm going to choose C here so that it's navigating. So it gives me the option to navigate to that content directly. I'm also going to choose a default topic. I'm going to do the same thing that I did with my other layouts. And I'm going to choose my circuit rules because that's my main example topic for this project. So circuit rules. I'm not going to worry about the glossary. I don't have one of those in here. I do need a conditional expression. And notice here is where we choose A, B, or C. This is preset C. It's going to use expression C. Just makes it easier to find. And then I'll go to layout. Within layout, I'm going to be able to choose from any templates that are defined within my RoboHelp project. In this case, I've got a template that did not include a table of contents, and one, version 2, that did include a table of contents. So if you've got multiple templates, you want to be careful which one you choose to retain that consistency. Or if you've developed them for different audiences, for different purposes, make sure that you've got them assigned appropriately. So I'll choose version 2 here. I'll go ahead and save. I'll output that preset. I'll view it. And here we have ref association rules C circuit. I've got my circuit C rules. In match day, I've got my information relating to the 8 and 10-year-olds. And under match fees, I don't have the tables for circuit A and circuit B. I only have circuit C. So that's great. I've been able to publish 3 independent projects. I'm able to view them relatively properly on my machine. And among other things, I've got a table of contents that's separate for each individual project. If I go to the other ones, let's go to Rules A, also has this table of contents right here. Circuit A is right down here. This is a responsive project, so that when I get to a resolution that is basically the size of a tablet, my layout changes overall and I get my navigation over on this side. If I get my screen about the size of a computer screen, then I again get a change in layout and I get that navigation pane over on the left-hand side. So that's what we mean by responsive design or responsive HTML5 output. Your content responds contextually to the size of the window that you're viewing it in. And if we view this on a phone with limited resolution, then you will get that phone experience and navigation based upon that output. So that's great. I've got one project. I've got 3 separate outputs. And here on my hard drive, I've got 3 folders of information in this location. So all's good so far. I've managed to use one project to output 3 separate output presets to different folders on my drive. Here's where they sit on my hard drive, right in here. So you notice that in the documents or on Windows, that'd be the My Documents folder. You're probably going to have a default position of My RoboHelp projects. And then in there, you can see I've got an outputs directory and a conditional output. Within that folder, I've got a folder for preset A. That's all of my information for preset A, all of my information for B, and all of my information for C. Now all I need to do is to push that information to a live web server, and then I'll be able to view that using any device that's able to access the internet. I'm going to move this over here. Now it's worth noting that RoboHelp has its own method or its own way to create publishing profiles or publish profiles that allow you to send your information directly from RoboHelp using any of these different methods over to your web server. So if you're working with Zoho, Zendesk, ServiceNow, Salesforce, or if you've got a SharePoint installation, you've got RoboHelp Server, or you've got an Adobe Experience Manager, these are all direct connections into that system. You can go ahead and log in and send your information directly. But if you don't have anything that is Atlassian or above in this list, then you've really got 2 options. And one is the file system, sending these files over a network within your organization, or choosing FTP. I'm not going to go over the details on how to set up the file system and the FTP connections here, because those might require that your IT person finesse the settings just a little bit for the specific location with specific passwords. Among other things, you're probably going to need to have a server location enabled on your system for file system, or you're going to need an FTP username and password to get to the FTP option to push these things over. Recognize that the FTP and the file system methods for pushing these files over are well worth doing within RoboHelp, because if you can do that, you have effectively a single-click method to push your content from the published content on your hard drive over onto your sandbox or your web server, and that's going to cut down a lot on the errors that could occur in those file transfers. Since the file system and the FTP publish profiles can require IT intervention, I'm just going to show you how to do this using a simple FTP transfer application like FileZilla. You can see here on my web server, I've already got directories set up for Ref A, Ref B, and Ref C. If I go back to each of my outputs, I can come into preset A. I can grab all the files here, and I can push these over into the Ref A directory. One nice thing about FileZilla and making this transfer, while that process is underway, I can set up preset B and transfer those files, as well as transferring preset C. Once the transfer is complete, you can go back to your browser, create a new tab, type in the address that you specified or that you delivered your content to. In this case, techcommtools.com/ref-A. And you have your rules for the ref-A circuit. In fact, you're free to open up those 3 pages on your own right now. They are live, and if I haven't pulled them down for any other reason, they should still be there. So I'm going to go ahead and choose the second option. So techcommtools.com/ref-B. Entirely separate content showing my rules B circuit, showing nothing about the A circuit, and showing only match fees for circuit B. Looking at ref C to confirm that that shows up as well. All is good. So we started with a 2-condition system. We've now moved this to a full 3-condition system. And let's look at what it'll take to get our information updated within the RoboHelp project, republished, and redeployed out to our web server. Back in RoboHelp, we'll go to the authoring environment. And let's say that what we're going to do is for condition B, which is the premier league or the highest paying league that my referees work with, we're going to say that the 17 and 19-year-old kids, those games are going to get more expensive by $10. So now I'm going to change that to 220. Whatever these numbers change to, I'm not going to, let's just say 88. They're probably not going to match up, but let's go 65. These numbers were all, they're not actual numbers. I just changed them up a little bit just so that they're not the true numbers that the referees are getting. I'm going to go ahead and save that content. And that was a change only to the condition B. That means that all I've got to do is go to my output, grab preset B, generate, view it to make sure that it's happening the way that I want it to, go to my match fees, in circuit B, go down to the U19s, and they're now making 220 and whatever my numbers are inside of here. And then I need to deliver that out to my web server. So I'm going to go back to FileZilla, and I'm going to go back to the output for preset B. You can see that my generation times are different. So instead of being somewhere around 11:30 a.m., the current time when I'm recording this, it's going to be around noon, the time that I made my change, or basically right now. So I'm going to go to preset B. I'm going to open that up. I'm going to take all of this information here, and I'm going to drag that over to the ref B content. I'm going to choose to overwrite if the source is newer. This is going to cut down on the number of things that I need to deploy. It's going to make it much faster. This is one of the things that the publish for RoboHelp does automatically. It makes it so that instead of taking hundreds and hundreds of files that I need to transfer, it's going to only do those files that have changed. So I'll hit OK. And clearly I need to make sure that I overwrite if source is newer, and then always use this action to my current queue and hit OK. And so I think I've got 178 transfers. And you can see how fast it's going because it's looking at those dates. It's just flying through there. Once my transfer is complete, I can go back to my browser. And where this was my users right here, so that's my new local version. You can see that it's on my hard drive. If I go back to, this is rule C, I'm going to close that. Go back to this one, circuit B. So on the web previously, you can see U17 to U19 was 210. I will go ahead and take that page and I will refresh it. So not even going in and typing it again, I'm going to refresh it off of the server. Go back to my match fees, and now it's set to 220. So that's how easy it is to update your content. You simply make the change inside of RoboHelp, confirm on your own machine that the change is correct and it's ready to go, and then push it either to a sandbox or to a web server once you're satisfied that everything is dialed in. So you should be able to see that if you have content that has a fair degree of overlap, as I do here, with all these different match fees, with all of these different instructions, and you have multiple audiences that would benefit from whittling down that content to exactly what they need. This is a great way to produce independent outputs for various audiences that can be posted in different places. That means that nobody needs to know about any of the other versions, and those are unique places where they will go to get the individual pieces of content. Now that the project is set up and publishing as I need, I'm going to take a look both at the code underneath the hood in the topic in RoboHelp, and then that same code underneath the published content that's sitting on the server. In my demo topic, you can see I've highlighted the bottom 4 items in this list. This contains both unconditional information for the parents sitting on opposite sides of the players, as well as the conditional information we've looked at a couple of times. Switching over to RoboHelp's source view, here's the HTML that's driving this content in RoboHelp. Line 31 has common content, and there's no indication of a condition in that line 31, where lines 32, 33, and 34 each have conditional information that reference both the league and the condition for the various pieces of information. Both the league and the conditions for the content are easily deciphered thanks to the code hinting that we've got in RoboHelp's source view. Moving over to the published information that's been posted on the web, I can see that in the condition A version of the content, it displays as I like. And then when I look at the source code that's generating the topic, while I see that there's a data condition for league condition A, not only is the condition B and the condition C information omitted or hidden, but it literally does not exist in the topic. It's important to remember this point when you're publishing anything that you would consider to be sensitive information. The content is not only not shown, but it's literally not available in the HTML code or the output at all. I hope you've gotten a lot out of the material so far, and we've got just a couple more things I want to show you. One of the things is the fact that we talked about applying conditions to actual topics. Looking at the contents pane here, you can see that circuit A, important info, is already set as conditional, as is circuit B, important info. So I need to make sure that circuit C, this topic, also is set to be conditional and only in the C topic. If this is not made conditional right now, it will show up and be delivered in the content with A and B, even though it isn't showing up in the links and the tables of contents. It will be buried in there, and it wouldn't really be something that you could run across, but it would be delivered in that package with all that material. So I want to make sure that circuit C is made conditional. I'm going to right click, go to apply condition tags, choose condition C, and hit apply. And that's all there is to that. So now I've got my yellow dot right there. Now when publishing B and publishing A, this material will not be included. Along with the conditionalizing of that topic, I also wanted to point out that in TOC C, the table of contents that we're using for this topic, this does not yet have the Circuit C important information topic. So tables of contents can be created automatically or generated and processed to come up with your necessary items, but you would do that using the auto create TOC. In this case, I'm just going to come in and choose Circuit C to go over into here to make sure that that's part of the table of contents. So let's save our project, go back into the output workspace, go to Preset C, Generate, View, and now when I go down to my table of contents, I've got Circuit C important info included. So that's good. Now, because this is supposed to be used on a phone, I developed this originally without having a table of contents included. All of the navigation was going to be within the app. So let me show you how you would do that in the output inside of RoboHelp. When we look at, we'll just start with preset A. When we look at preset A and the layout, I have a couple of layouts defined in here. One was my original template and one was ref v2. So if I go to the one that I've chosen, ref v2, and I edit that, I can go to my layout options and choose the things that I want to show. Since I've not developed an index or a glossary, and I'm not using my filtering yet, that'll be in the next session, I've got all of these turned off. But the TOC right now is on. I'm going to go ahead and turn that off. That means that I won't be looking at the TOC options over here or the button to go to a TOC. And keep in mind that this is viewing right now. This is showing me my desktop version right here. If I come up to my option for my, my mobile, then you're going to see that you don't have that icon right there. Going back to the TOC, there's the icon showing up right there. So I'm going to turn that off. I'll hit save. And while I'm here, I might as well go into my header, because my header was using a flag logo ping, and that is not the one that I'm using as my favicon or favicon. So instead of using this monochrome one, I'm going to go into my assets, images, choose that two-color ping right there, hit insert, and add a little splash of color to match what I would have up in my tab right there. So let's check that out. We're going to go in and confirm that that's working the way it's supposed to. Save that. Go to Preset C. Generate. And View. Now I've got my icon missing, or not showing is more accurate, down here. And I've also got my icon up here for the ref C, or I'm sorry, for the two-color logo to match, and that pulls in a little bit better. We'll just go through and do the same thing in preset B. So in preset B, now that I've got ref 2 right there, it's already ready to go. Double checking on preset A. I've got my layout and charcoal gray ref 2. So really all there is to it is to go ahead and double check. So I view my preset A. There's preset A without a table of contents. Just to confirm, when I go to tablet, that's my tablet layout right there. I've got no table of contents available. When I go to my desktop size, then again, there is no icon to navigate to the via the TOC. Now I'll leave you with the best practice that I have always found helpful. When going into the authoring and looking at my sample topic, you see that I've got one tag right here. This is condition C. Then I've got condition A and condition B. Of course, the tooltip didn't show up there. So there's the tooltip for condition C. Some of these items actually do exist in more than one condition, and I do have the ability to apply more than one condition to each of these things. If I were to choose that the home team is to provide 3 game balls, and I want that to exist on more than one condition, I can very easily choose condition A and condition B. And what I get is not a red to a green, but I get a yellow to a green gradient right there. While I'm able to apply more than one condition, and I get that color that indicates a multiple condition, not just green to yellow for condition B to C, but multiple conditions, 2 or more conditions will give you that gradient. This is a little bit less manageable when I go into my my condition expressions. So when you look at your condition expressions and you start to work with excluding these things or trying to use the include or the or, you're probably going to find that you're getting unexpected results. So the best practice is to make sure that your content, when you're working with this RoboHelp conditional project, that your content has exactly one condition applied to it. And then when you go into your conditional expressions, that you use the exclude option for individual conditions, and that you use the and operator rather than the or. I do hope that you've enjoyed the session. If you're interested in any of the free resources that I showed at the beginning of the session itself, I've sort of collected those links for you right here. If you need any help from me directly, there's contact information on this page. You can reach out. I'd be happy to give you a hand. And finally, if you've enjoyed this content, the session that we do after this is going to be on taking those outputs and combining them into one thing that your users can then access and then filter on their own so that they can see, compare and contrast perhaps, how the different systems work together or what the differences are between those. We're also going to wrap up with that session on RoboHelp merged output, and that gives you the ability to take independent help systems, things that are not necessarily related, and then string those things together. Merged help might be good for an organization that has independent products. So each product could have its own help system. Those help systems could be published on their own, but then the organization as a whole can publish one help system and allow for the user to navigate between the independent help systems for each of those products. Thank you one last time for watching this session. Once again, my name is Matt Sullivan from Comm Tools, and I look forward to responding to all of your questions and comments.